That's right, people. We recorded this across 2 separate days because we needed the full hour to discuss this movie. Like I thought this was just gonna be like, okay, this is just like kind of like the quiet movie placeholder in between the 2 giant Superman movies. This movie opened because this movie that we're about to talk about, which is Ari Aster's 4th feature film, Eddington, starring Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal, Emma Stone, Austin Butler, Deirdre O'Connell, Luke Grimes, Michael Ward, and a couple of other people whose names I don't remember off the top of my head. Also very, very funny and surprising Clifton Collins Jr.'s performance, which I did not see coming out. I did not recognize him at all. What's it called? So like I said, I thought this was going into this is just going to be the little movie that was cushioned in between the 2 gigantic superhero releases. We had Superman last week and we have Fantastic Four coming out this coming weekend. And needless to say, I did not see coming at all the amount of traction, the amount of hype, the amount of just really conversation that was going to come about around this movie. I've got Dustin here. I've got Kristen here. First time the 3 of us have been together on a panel since, I think, last year to talk about a movie, I want to say. And I just got to start off with this question because I feel like this is like the perfect question to kind of kick off this conversation. Because this is one of those movies where I'm like, coming out of this, I'm like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to sum up my opinion, my thoughts on this movie after just one instance. Like, this is one that's going to require an in-depth discussion, that's going to require definitely seeing the movie again. I will plan on seeing this movie again. Probably not in theaters. I'll probably have to wait until it comes out on streaming before I'm able to watch it again. But my first question that I pose to you guys is this the movie of our time?
It's funny because I was just watching like Chris Stuckman's review on it, and he said it was one of the most, definitive like COVID movies, if I'm wording that correctly, from his take on it. But it is. I think this is the film that looks over the pandemic in a lot of ways that shows, people's political opinions, people going through mental health struggles. Like, so much is just thrown at the wall of what happened in 2020. So I think it's probably the most COVID I've seen. And I want to bring up, this is a COVID movie with Pedro Pascal. We also had to remember he was also in The Bubble, which is also a COVID movie.
That's right.
And it didn't hit.
There you go.
Until I was putting on my makeup, and I'm thinking about Pedro Pascal. I'm like, oh wait, he was in another COVID movie in The Bubble, which is a good thing because at least we could say there's at least one better Pedro Pascal COVID movie.
Yeah, and he's the only actor working during COVID. Like in fucking everything. He's in goddamn everything.
Conspiracy.
It's getting annoying.
It's a Pedro Pascal summer. It's a Pedro Pascal
summer.
No, it's a Pedro Pascal era is what it is.
Hashtag Pedro Pascal started COVID. It wasn't the best.
On Hollywood.
It was Pedro Pascal. We're already getting this kicked off the right way. Dustin, is this the movie of our time?
No. I mean, it's so wants to be. And the people that are just sycophants to Ari Aster and everything he does, to them it is. To me, it's still like Don't Look Up. And honestly, Vengeance isn't too far behind the BJ Novak movie. I think those movies paint a better picture of where we are as a society. Even if those are a few years old, I still think it captures us way more accurately and less exaggerated than this film does. And it's so weird. We'll talk more about it, but I'm frustrated by just when he wants to be like goofy and over the top, but the rest of it is like so measured and like grounded and down to earth. In my opinion, it's just a very strange styling of tone for me.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought up Don't Look Up because that was one of the first things that I thought of as soon as I came out of this movie was I'm like, oh, this was Ari Aster's. And he definitely wasn't thinking of this consciously when he made this, but I was definitely thinking along the lines of like, yeah, this is like Ari Aster's version of Don't Look Up in the sense of this is a movie that in his mind, he is attempting to hold a mirror to society in order to present a very, very specific kind of thought process that we were all having and all going through during this one very, very specific time and era where nothing felt real. Everything felt like it was falling apart. And literally, I know this is a joke that's been used many, many times, especially when it comes to referencing, again, I live in New York City, but something that literally felt like a simulation where, and in a strange way, it's another one of those instances where as a filmmaker who has the sensibilities that he does, I don't think there's anybody else that could have directed a movie quite like this. Because even with what Adam McKay did with Don't Look Up, that movie still feels very much like pointed and directed in a way that Ari Aster, I don't think, is really capable of as a filmmaker. Because this actually kind of goes into the next point that I want to talk about, which is Ari's trajectory as a filmmaker up until this point. So, which obviously, again, all of us are cinephiles. All of us are relatively around, close enough to the same age. And we all, we were all kind of in, I would say, similar points as to when we first, kind of became aware of him, were introduced to him. I don't know how many people on this panel watched the short film that he did back in 2011, Strange Thing About the Johnsons. I watched that after the fact. I think I watched it, in 2021. So in between Midsommar and Beau is Afraid. And then, obviously, we all become aware after Hereditary becomes possibly the smash. I mean, Dustin, you and I know talk all the time about all the directorial debuts that came out in the year 2018. But I think it's safe to say that just as far as the one that made the biggest impact, I think it might have to be Hereditary, just as far as a first time up and coming filmmaker. Nobody had really ever seen or heard him before. And he comes out with this movie that really kind of was in the wake of Avengers Infinity War, and it kind of really was kind of in a strange way the movie of the summer. I really think back to summer of 2018, and outside of Avengers Infinity War, which was the clear, just demolition block that took down everything, I really feel in terms of conversation piece, in terms of the movie that it seemed like people were the most, interested in, invested in, the one that was generating the most conversation, it was Hereditary, easily. And especially given that was a movie, if you could almost make the argument that I feel is the movie that started to make the Academy start to take summer movies a little bit more seriously because of the amount of people that went nuts over Toni Collette not getting nominated. And then he follows it up 1 year later with Midsommar, which, again, I am not a fan of that movie at all. That's still my least favorite of his movies. And that I feel is the one where it's okay, I'm not going to say people were divided on it, but that definitely is much more so of a love-hate movie where it's I feel because that movie, if I had to say of all of his movies, is probably the most straightforward, which, again, is not a word that I would usually use to describe.
I would say it's this, but continue.
So I'll get to that, but I would say that Midsommar is probably his most straightforward. And then you have, ironically, COVID happen, and in a weird way, COVID, you can tell he is a guy that is still working his way through that, because he does Beau is Afraid with Joaquin Phoenix, and that movie, even though it's not necessarily saying anything, he's very clearly, that's his first attempt to deal with kind of some of the residual overhanging anxieties that are left over from COVID. That movie opened in 2023, which is kind of our first big mainstream year back from COVID, after 2022 was kind of this back and forth weird year.
Yeah.
And now we have this movie, which, unlike Beau is Afraid, which felt like it was just trying to kind of deal with some of the feelings that came from it, but ultimately, subject matter wise, we can kind of all agree was utter nonsense, which is part of the reason why I love that movie, because that movie is just so silly and over the top that I just couldn't help but enjoy it. And now we have this movie, which is a lot more direct, a lot more, at least in comparison to Beau is Afraid, it's a lot more direct. It's a movie that is, they blatantly were coming out and saying, no, this is a movie about a small town during COVID. It takes place during May into early June of 2020. This movie is not trying to shy away at all. Very similar, ironically enough, to what Superman was doing last week. This movie is not trying to shy away at all from the real world struggle that it is presenting. And I think that's kind of where is a good place to start, because if there's one thing that I've learned about Ari Aster, it's that I think that he is at his best when he is kind of not being super direct in a weird way. But I guess that's kind of what's both the best thing and the most frustrating thing about this movie, is the fact that for the first hour of this movie, while it is kind of, just for lack of a better word, a COVID satire, but also by doing what satires do best, which is essentially just presenting a small town, all of the micro isms of COVID that we had to deal with, wearing a mask versus the proper ways to wear a mask, the 6 feet distancing, all the stupid bullshit regulations that we had to deal with, that so much of the time we were just why the hell are we doing this? And that's before we even get into kind of the introduction of the second act, which is, of course, in a weird way, again, very much reflecting reality, the second act of COVID, the introduction of the Black Lives Matter movement that happened during the middle of that summer, and everything that happens there. And that's ultimately where the movie takes a massive shift and kind of goes into, for lack of a better word, more typical Ari Aster fare. And I feel like that's where the problems and the criticism start. So I wanted to take it from there. My next big point, as far as you guys, is what your general thoughts on the movies, on this specific movie is in comparison to Ari Aster's filmography, what you guys kind of think of Ari Aster's 3 movies and his trajectory leading up to here, as well as, where you think this movie, how you think, like, the difference between this movie's first half versus its second half is.
Dustin, you can go first.
All right. Well, Hereditary is still his best movie. Easily. It's a very confident and daring debut filled with terrific performances and horrifying imagery, and just sticks with you. And I mean, he's always been polarizing to a certain degree. I don't think he's going to be a crowd-pleasing director his career throughout his career. I just don't, because there was a lady that turned next to me after that movie ended and was like, "That was crap, right?" And I was like, "No, I quite enjoyed that, actually." And yeah, so I don't know. I seem to enjoy it, and so did most film people. So I didn't feel bad about it. Then Midsommar came out, and I mean, I already had saw Florence Pugh in Fighting with My Family, so I was like already like, all right, who the hell is that? I like her a lot, and she's terrific in that movie. It's kind of torture porn, though. I mean, that's when that's where I was starting to go, because Hereditary was the same way, where it was just a slow build of just nothing but just complete utter torture and grief and shit. But it was just still like more tightly paced and edited, and I was just more connected to the characters. This was just fucking like a dour cult movie by the end, and just everyone's miserable, and just then go to Beau is Afraid now. Hated it, didn't like it, not a fan, nonsense. It's a David Lynch, Charlie Kaufman ripoff movie, and that's when I started to really realize, okay, he does not like his main characters. I mean, he really doesn't like his main characters in the slightest. Going all the way back to Hereditary to Beau is Afraid, to even Eddington, we'll get into. He hates his main characters, and therefore it makes his movies predictable. Did I know exactly what, like, scene by scene, where Beau is Afraid was going to go? No. But did I think it was going to end well for that character? No. So was I right by the end? Yes. Because is that entertaining? No. So it's like, was there a couple funny moments in it? The Bill Hader cameo on the phone, that was great. I like Nathan Lane in it. I don't like girls screaming and eating paint for no apparent reason. Doesn't make any fucking sense. And Joaquin Phoenix, I just felt bad for him, the actor, that whole movie. And it just, I don't like movies that don't really feel like they have a story. So you want me to talk about Eddington now?
We'll save that. We'll save that once we get into Eddington. Because
I think he's a talented guy. His the way he makes movies, the way they look, the way the composers he brings on, I'm a fan. I like it. I just don't really like how cynical he is, and I'll explain more on that in a bit.
Ooh, okay, like that. No, I'm actually glad that you brought that up, because that gets into a take on Ari Aster that I really I think is becoming more and more prevalent now that we spent enough time with him as a filmmaker. Kristen, your thoughts on his movies leading up to Eddington?
Well, hands down, Hereditary is his best film. I think there's no denying that. It's still talked about this day as his best work. I mean, it's shown a lot on social media and like edits and memes, and Toni Collette, it really got her to be like known as this name as Toni Collette, the actress, where we see her in so much now.
Yeah.
And, let's see. I wasn't also a fan of Midsommar. I thought it was good. I want to bring up also, Dustin, you brought up the fact he brings on great people who work on the scores, that he has great cinematographers. Like, all of his films look great, like stunning cinematography, like me thinking it could be like nominee worthy, I think, like personally speaking. And Beau is Afraid, I liked it. I feel like a lot of the cinephile side maybe like likes it for how crazy it is, and just Joaquin Phoenix
That's why I liked it.
going. He's just like this actor. He goes for it, and he goes for all these like crazy roles that like really are experimental. And I think that's why I enjoyed it, and that's why he got his Golden Globe nomination a few years back. And this one, I can't 100% say. Yeah, we'll go into it more. But
Yeah.
Ari Aster is such an interesting filmmaker. I think there's a lot to discuss about him. And I love the fact, Dustin, you also brought up that he hates his own main characters, which is so interesting because all these main characters that we see in all his movies have so many flaws. And I think that's what makes his films interesting for people to go seek them out. They're like, why is this character the way he is, and how we're going to go on this journey with them. So I like the guy. I don't know if he should still continuing to work with A24. I saw something the other day that Marvel approached him to direct Morbius. I mean,
that's hilarious.
That's the funniest thing I've ever heard.
How crazy would that have been with him and Jared Leto?
I can't even imagine that.
Like something
that would be the movie of our time if that happened.
I don't know how 100% this is true, but there was like some video I saw on TikTok, and it was like Ari Aster, Morbius, and I was like, what? Wait, what?
It's like when they offered Quentin Tarantino to direct like Speed and Men in Black. It's like, what the fuck? Like, imagine those realities.
But even that makes more sense than Ari Aster directing any kind of a superhero movie.
I know.
Tarantino directing Speed makes sense at the very
Dominic,
least.
Fresh off of Requiem for a Dream and Pi, they wanted Darren Aronofsky to do Batman.
See, that I think is a more apt comparison to this than Quentin Tarantino doing Speed.
All right.
Yeah, there's an article on Vulture. It says it wasn't Morbin time for Ari Aster, so you can see there's an article on that.
This is the greatest thing I've heard all day.
Yeah,
so
and Bloody
far.
Disgusting has an article on it, so if you want to read more about it.
Oh my God, this is amazing. This is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's funny because I think I have like pretty much like an opposite take on Ari Aster than pretty much everybody except for when it comes to Midsommar. My whole thing with Hereditary was I was very, very intrigued by it from a filmmaking standpoint, but my whole thing is I couldn't get into it because the movie just felt, for me, just so alienating to such a degree. And my big thing that I come up with is, so the reason why it is definitely, I think, the most the most, I think, well-received of his movies is because it's clearly the movie that he put the most amount of thought into of all of his movies, because you could tell, like, the lookbook that he present, like, there's a reason why A24 put so much into this movie, into that movie specifically, because the way that he came up with the lookbook with this big history and all this lore of, you know, the family curse and the demon that had been possessing him. My whole thing, and what I still think is the biggest missed opportunity that Hereditary has, is I don't like that Hereditary seemed like a movie that was trying to potentially make it seem like, oh, okay, like, is this curse real, or is this all in this family's head? And I still feel like the ending is a little bit of a cop-out where it goes just full-on crazy to a point where it feels almost in complete conjunction with the rest of the film and what it's going with. Midsommar, Dustin, I'm with you there. It's complete torture porn. It's just unpleasurable to watch. And after a certain point, I'm just
I still didn't hate that movie, though. I don't know if I made that clear. I liked that movie and I appreciated it. I just think it went on way too long. Yeah. I thought it was way longer than even Hereditary deserved to be. Like, I feel like Hereditary deserved that runtime compared to Midsommar, especially if you saw the deleted scenes of Hereditary and they actually gave more to Alex Wolff and Gabriel Byrne.
Okay, so maybe I need to go. Maybe I need to go and watch those deleted scenes. But yeah, Midsommar, was just such a chore for me.
Maybe this is a sign for Ari to question his runtime and be like, maybe I should cut this down. You know?
Yeah, because even though this movie Eddington was a lot shorter than Beau Was Afraid, I was even still feeling the length by the end of it. I'm like, this is really.
It didn't feel that much shorter, honestly.
Yeah, it really didn't. It's kind of crazy, even though it's a full half hour shorter.
And we didn't even really talk about strange thing about the Johnsons, but like he hates that main character also.
So obvious. Like so obvious. That poor dad. It's so funny too because my friends showed that short to me and they had no clue, and I had no clue what it was about. And then as soon as you see like the whole, the son's raping that, I literally turned to them and my friends are like, oh, he ain't smiling no more. I'm like, fuck you guys. I'm like, fuck you guys for making me watch this. And they were just they were playing a joke on me, but I was like, no, this isn't fun. I'm like, this is awful. This is actually awful.
It's an impressively made short, but it does sort of reek of like that edgelordy sort of like, isn't that crazy? Isn't that sick? Yeah. Laugh like sort of thing where I'm just like, all right, I'm not 11 years old anymore. I don't need to laugh at that kind of dumb, fucking insane sort of shit.
And then my take on Beau is Afraid, and Dustin, I think I've told you about this, but like I think I have a better way to articulate, which is Beau is Afraid to me, and the reason why I love it so much. I articulated it in a way that I don't think made a lot of sense when it first came out, but I think I've come up with a better way to articulate why I enjoyed that movie so much, which is that it is the inverse of M. Night Shyamalan's The Happening. And here's what I mean by that. M. Night Shyamalan famously has said since The Happening came out that he was trying to make a B movie, to which we all know is complete and utter bullshit. Because we all know M. Night Shyamalan's sensibilities as a filmmaker, that he thought he was making one of the most serious, important movies ever with The Happening. And then based off the reaction that movie got.
I don't know about that. That it was like he set out to make one of the most important movies.
Well, just based on like what he, well, just based on like the thought processes that he has, the sensibilities that he has as a filmmaker, what he thinks, what he thought with Lady in the Water. Maybe not like that serious, but he definitely
thought it was like his version of The Birds.
The point being is that I don't believe for a second that he was trying to intentionally make a B movie. I don't buy that.
I don't buy that either. I think he was intentionally. I'm gonna piggyback on both of you. Like he was trying to make it with The Birds, but like this was his cinema, so it's like smashing the two together. That's
right. And I feel like that's kind of what Ari Aster was doing with Beau is Afraid, but in the sense of where he was trying to make something that was just such a thing of like his own anxiety that he unintentionally made one of the silliest movies ever made. And again, the fact that the movie has just enough to get you by, where once you realize that this entire movie is just a fever dream personification of his inability to move past his overbearing mother to the point where it literally kills him. It's hysterical. It's absolutely hysterical once you realize that, like, oh, this is all just like complete and utter nonsense, because the subject matter is complete and utter nonsense. The fact that a guy is going to let his overbearing mother ruin his life to such a ridiculous degree, that's silly. That's also, he's treating it like the silliness that it is, and I love that. I absolutely love that about that movie. Is it a little bit too long? Yes. Does it get way too kind of into the surreal nightmare fuel? Yes. Does it have a couple scenes that are completely unnecessary? Yes. Is it one of the funniest movies that I've seen that I laughed hysterically at for the whole time? Yes. And that kind of brings us into Eddington, where, again, based off of all of his sensibilities as a filmmaker. Oh, the other thing really quick that I wanted to bring up before we actually finally start to break down this movie is my take on Ari Aster, that as this point, I think that he is, in a weird way, a little bit of, what's it called? I would like to see him direct a script that is not written by him. Because up until this point, he has written all of his script, because he has shown he has a great technical mind. The way that he shoots, his cinematography, his scores, he has a genius. Even this movie, like the cinematography of this movie, the way that he is continuously still able to capture that claustrophobic dollhouse feeling that he gave us way back in Hereditary, where, again, one of the most brilliant things about Hereditary is the fact that the main character is literally working on a dollhouse diorama of kind of their family, literally showing that, like, oh, like this, you understand, oh, this is everything he's going to want to do for his entire filmography. One person pulling the puppet strings, ultimately, showing that we have no agency. And he kind of brings that into this from the opening shot, where you have the Clifton Collins Jr. homeless guy wandering into town, and you see that bird's eye kind of viewpoint of the town, a very Hitchcockian shot, if you will. So that brings us into Eddington itself, which, again, is a movie set during May of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 in a small town in New Mexico, where you have Joaquin Phoenix's hapless sheriff, Joe Cross, who's attempting to maintain some sense of law and order after the town's mayor, Ted Garcia, portrayed by Pedro Pascal, has just implemented the lockdown procedures, despite the fact that they are pretty far removed from civilization. And you also, to the point where I feel like those kinds of regulations, which were understandable in big metropolis areas with a lot of people, were kind of a little bit silly with, small towns like this, where everybody is pretty tight-knit, nobody could travel anywhere. So let's face it, it was all kind of silly as far as how that was implemented in those kinds of towns. And then you also have the backdrop of where, oh, this guy is really just trying to bring in this tech company in order to try and create, a new center of jobs. So that gets into the technocrat angle of this as well. And then the movie takes the whole first hour of this movie is basically following the town as they're attempting to get by under these very, very silly regulations. And then the movie takes a turn once the Black Lives Matter movement happens, and we get into June, and that's when things go absolutely bonkers, bananas, off the wall, and the movie becomes first it becomes like a revenge thriller, like almost like a Taxi Driver wannabe. Then it becomes just like a straight up like a reference to No Country for Old Men. The movie's trying to do a lot. It's trying to say a lot. It's throwing a lot at you. And I think that's kind of why people are in general conflicted on it, because the movie clearly does. I think that of all of his movies, probably since Hereditary, this is the one where he has the most to say, and is for once not just trying to do a portrayal of his own inner thoughts and anxieties and such. But it's almost like he can't help himself as far as continuing to let that kind of get into it. And it's almost one of those instances where it's like he's trying to make two different movies in one, and he almost manages to streamline the ideas across the whole thing, but he just comes up short enough in certain areas. So that's kind of, I think, a good area to bring us actually into the movie itself. So what do we think of Eddington? And please take as much time as you guys need in order to like fully break down your thoughts on it.
For me, I saw this on Friday. It took me a few days. Like, I know most of us like to put out our reviews right away. For me, I needed to sit with this and like have this marinate like a steak and just be like, how did I like this? I think visually, Beau is Afraid is the better film. And I think that could be controversial, maybe. I don't know. I kind of want to watch Eddington again. Maybe not so much Beau is Afraid, even though I like it a lot. But I like the story here, especially the fact it was really selling on itself that these were two people who were going at it, to be the mayor of this town. And that's where I was really hooked with this story. I loved the first hour. And all of a sudden, once we hit that major event that happens to the character of Pedro Pascal, I was like, where is this movie going? I don't know if we're going to like this. Like, by then, that's where I feel like the movie should have wrapped up, ended, and shown that this is the Joaquin's character just shows that this was a man from the COVID pandemic that lost his mind and lost everything, and just showed that this is a man of destruction. What do we do about people like him in society? But then it becomes this whole other thing where we're seeing different stuff with everything you were saying, that this is just being thrown at the wall, like tomatoes being thrown at the wall, like seeing what sticks. And then it becomes another movie that is exploring so many different things. And I was just like, okay, when is this movie going to wrap? I get what he's trying to say. There are times where I was like, okay, this movie's going to end here and it's going to land on this note. And then it doesn't. It just keeps going. That leads to one of the film's most unpredictable elements that happens to the main character. And I was just like, what happened here? Especially with the mother. Like, I was like, what?
Did not see that one coming.
I did not see that coming. And then especially knowing the fact what happens with the nurse, I was just like, everybody in the theater next to me was just like, what? Like, what? And there was a lot of good laughs, I think, from this, especially the dinner scene that Dom, you and I have talked about. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of good comedic elements. I love the scene with him, Joaquin, and Pedro, with the party scene, the COVID, and the Katy Perry song and Aurora. It's just so perfect, that scene where they're fighting with the volume. I think the performances are very good. I think what also takes me out of the film is the stuff going on with Emma Stone and Austin Butler. I think that's the film's biggest red flag. I think maybe Austin Butler could have just been a cameo and just been like, oh, I'm this cult leader and Emma Stone finds me, attractive, and I appeal to her. Like, that stuff, I think if Emma Stone just was the wife, she decides to leave him, fine. And she does.
Yeah.
But we didn't need this extra character of Austin in all his scenes. And they're both good actors. Their talent is just wasted on characters that weren't totally necessary. And I think their work could have been explored somewhere else. And I think Emma Stone would be great to work with Ari Aster. It's just her talent here was completely wasted.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge Emma Stone fan. Love her. She's one of my favorite actresses of all time. And I'm just disappointed with the work she was just given here. So
real quick. Also, another thing that I literally just thought of is that, because we were obviously talking a lot about how a lot of that stuff could have been put in the background, and that could have been made it even more interesting. So you actually just brought up a really good point. So obviously, again, the big thing is that by the time Emma Stone leaves, it feels like a natural conclusion to this one arc, because we have all this backstory of all this potential, like, that Joaquin Phoenix is in this cuckolded relationship where his wife is, may have also had this affair with the Pedro Pascal character, the mayor character, and then you have Pedro Pascal giving his own perspective on it. So you have these conflicting perspectives as well. But I almost feel like it would have been more interesting if we found all of that out after the fact, where because I feel like if anything, that would have made the actions even more morally questionable, because the way that it's set up in the movie when Joaquin does what he does in the middle act, and I'm still saving that for once we get into spoilers. At that time, you're like, oh, you kind of feel kind of weird and yucky, because it's one of those things of it's like, oh, it's like you understand, and by a result, and by default, you empathize with him for why he does what he does. But you're like, but you don't want to do that, you know, because the Pedro Pascal character doesn't seem like, I mean, obviously, yeah, he's made some, I think, some bad decisions ultimately, but he doesn't seem like the type of a guy that's deserving. But if you don't know that, and that's even more morally questionable, and you don't find out until after the fact, after he's already done what he does, that's when you're like, oh, okay, and it just like completely shifts. So it's like certain things like that where it's like Ari almost can't help himself in terms of just getting all of this out, because it's not done in a boring expository way, but it's done in a way where it's conflicting information that almost and that makes you shift your perspective so many times that you're unable to really come to any sort of a conclusion. And maybe that's what he wants, but I think there's a way to ultimately do it better in a way that feels more palatable. I don't know, Dustin, what are your thoughts on it?
All right, this movie is like if you typed in the chat GPT, hey, write me a script in the style of the Coen brothers and David Lynch, and give me a version of Assassination Nation. Because this is all over the place, this fucking movie, okay? There's too many characters he wants to tackle, and yet it still doesn't seem like an actual community. Like, you barely get a feel for this Eddington town, which does feel so desolate and small, to the fact where I'm like, when they're having those protests, I'm like, who the fuck are they even, like, talking to? Like, who are they even trying to get the attention to? Everyone's store is closed. They're just in these barren streets. You know what I mean? It's like, what even is this? And I'm just sick and tired of how cynical he is, because Ari Aster, because the more I'm marinating, as Kristen said, on this film and the characters, we're not supposed to like Joaquin Phoenix. As pathetic and as empathetic,
and that's the problem that I have.
As pathetic and as empathetic as he comes across, we're not supposed to like him by the end. And especially with that last hour, we're definitely not supposed to. It just turns into like a Coen brothers, like, sort of screwball-y sort of like outcome, where it's just like, oh, of course, like it just turns into sort of like Suburbicon almost, like that sort of like really disgusting sort of like, oh yeah, nothing's gonna end well for these characters. It's like he hates everybody, even the black cop, who's the nicest character in the movie. He has to maim him by the end, and he survives miraculously. It's like,
yeah,
what?
that was the craziest part.
That scene still makes no sense, because when that explosion goes off, I'm like, wait. But like, you see him first, I thought I was like, you know, you see him like move, you see him blink a little bit, and I'm like, there's no way that he actually survived. Then they show him alive at the end. I'm like, okay, come the fuck on. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, he was buying his wife's dolls so she wouldn't leave him. Brett Badger, shut up! Stop telling us what the movie's doing. Okay, I know what the movie's doing. All right, stop it. All right, he's not a good guy. And I'm gonna get all into the Emma Stone, Joaquin of it all in a second.
Yeah,
but like, I'm just sick of how like confusing and annoying the tone can be. And like, the whole movie is just like, I just laugh at Joaquin. As shitty as all the other characters come across, you're still not supposed to feel bad for Joaquin by the end. And I just think that renders the whole thing pointless. And then you're absolutely correct about Emma Stone and Austin Butler, Kristen. What a total waste of them. Especially Austin Butler, who is just like, you could have gotten any scummy, good-looking guy, you know, to play that character. You know what I mean? And Emma Stone, absolutely, she has the range and the talent to like actually tackle like a Toni Collette sort of like role, but or Florence Pugh kind of role, and she just doesn't get that here. Even though they definitely insinuate a lot of fucked up shit that happened to her, in in the backstory of this movie. Yeah, and this is my whole theory to that. So Deirdre O'Connell from the Batman, who was from the Penguin rather, was phenomenal in that show. amazing on that show. She is just a bumbling, annoying, constantly talking mess in this movie. And I think she's obviously mentally disturbed. And I think it's because Emma Stone's father, who is dead and was the former sheriff and was, Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix was his right-hand man. I'm pretty sure the father fucking assault, like he used to sexually abuse Emma Stone. Like I thought
that was basically all.
Like
but
that was the most obvious shit
it's
in
like
the world. And
like
I think Joaquin Phoenix got because the whole time I'm thinking, well, how did he even get with Emma Stone? You know, like she doesn't seem to like him at all. All. So how did he even and then you see like an old photo of like the father, and it's like, okay, he sort of looks like a younger version of that. So I feel like he groomed Emma Stone into being like his wife, and especially the way he calls her rabbit and everything. I just think it's very predatory underneath the whole thing, so you can feel better about laughing at his misery. And I just don't think it's like that compelling. I just don't. Like I really don't. And I love Joaquin Phoenix's commitment to the character. Pedro Pascal's barely used in this movie too, honestly. Just and the way they dispatch that character by the last hour. Like there's an hour left of this movie when he's dead. And his little shit kid was an asshole too. Like
yeah. And then the irony being that when he killed Pedro, I'm like, okay, well, he has to kill the kid, right? But then the kid gets shot. I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense.
It adds suspense to that. Like, oh, he went for Pedro. He's also going for the kid, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah, I was like, oh, thank God. I'm like, oh, thank God.
And it's masquerading as like an edgy sort of like dark comedy, but the most transgressive comedy in the movie is when Joaquin Phoenix calls the kid the F slur by accident. But even then, Joaquin is supposed to be the joke of that scene because the guy's recording him, so he's supposed to look bad. You know what I mean? Like, couldn't just be like a sincere moment of him calling the kid that slur, rightfully, because that kid is nothing but an asshole to Joaquin Phoenix the entire movie. So just one little transgressive thing to himself. But no, he has to be the butt of that scene so the audience can laugh at him and don't feel. And oh yeah, he's a jackass, and that's what he gets for saying the F slur. It's like, no, can't we just like treat these characters for what they are? Like that kid is a little asshole. I'm sorry, he just is. Like, and the way he steals that girl, he pretends he's not into activism, and then he sees the white kid interested in the girl, and then he goes after the girl, and then little Rittenhouse asshole sets up in this most contrived way as like, oh, I'll send him a picture. Send Michael Ward the picture of the guy who apparently he may or may not have dated the young blonde annoying girl in this movie who was so Sarah Goldberg and Barry coded to me.
Yes.
Like that's all I kept thinking about. But like in the first couple seasons of Barry until she got great. I just was completely frustrated by this. That whole plan that little kid had. His whole plan was like, I'll just send a text message to the black cop, and then they'll just automatically assume. The way that they built up Luke Grimes being like a true racist, also I thought was really forced and like just comically forced in like an unintentionally funny way, where it's just like, okay, he's just doing that because the script is saying that. You know what I mean? And don't even get me started on like as soon as Pedro Pascal dies, we cut to an airplane and a bunch of people doing push-ups. And do they have real like white supremacist signs? Are they the supreme right? Are they the far left that's being you know what I mean? Like it's like and that sort of thing where it's just like, okay, everything just starts happening. The Michael Ward is let out and kidnapped and like put in the middle of a minefield. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't make sense. And then Joaquin Phoenix just gets attacked and everything. And then Rittenhouse comes to the rescue with his gun that was foreshadowed in one scene. Great. And then shoots the guy and then becomes a right-wing influencer and gets his own girl.
It was funny because I was talking to some friends about it, and I said, that's the guy. I said, that's the Kyle Rittenhouse character that they were squeezing into the film. And as I'm listening to you talk about all these characters. This film does have way too many characters.
It's too much.
Like,
it's too crowded.
God, like,
it's way too crowded.
I completely forgot about the young girl that even Joaquin tries to, you know, first, you know, accuse of the murders. And I'm just like, did we need her? Did we need her? Maybe no, maybe no. But I understand for the story. Maybe Ari Aster needed to cut down on some of these characters to make this a little tighter.
We understand that it was the corporation. I'm reading the comment. We understand that it was the corporation. All right. But like, who was behind the corporation is what I want to know. That's way more interesting to me.
Well, so that's the thing. That's the thing, right? It's never explicitly said, but based off the rumors, it's that the tech company that Pedro Pascal was working on bringing into the town, once he gets killed, they are the ones who paid for the mercenaries. And that's supposed to be getting into the whole, like, oh, the technocracy, they're the ones that have been behind, you know, the ones who supposedly in real life have been behind the Antifa movement and potentially the far-right movement. Oh, it's them that have just been engineering everything so that they can continue to engineer all of this manufactured conflict for more views so that they can make more money off of their services. That is what I believe that was trying to say. But again, that's another thing, that because by virtue of the fact that there is so much happening in this movie, it all kind of gets
lost in the sauce. It really is. That's what I think more.
And why would they implement him as a mayor?
Yeah.
Right, exactly. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, that may be an explanation, but it still breeds more questions than answers. Which, okay, so my take on this movie, like I said, I love this movie when it is a COVID parody. When it becomes something else in the second half, that's when it starts to lose me. Mostly just because I am trying so hard to figure out what the hell is going on. And it's shifting genres and it shifts momentums where it transitions for a second into You Were Never Really Here, where Joaquin is now like a Travis Bickle character who is just like taking his vengeance out on everybody who's wronged him. And I'm like, okay, so now it's a revenge movie? Okay. I mean, I guess, sure. And then next thing you know, it's like, okay, he's clearly trying to frame and set up like potential other people and like taking blatant advantage of the chaos. But also it kind of seems like he's like a bumbling oaf. I'm like the movie in that sequence after he kills Pedro Pascal is trying to have its cake and eat it too. Where it's like the thing of where it's like, oh, he simultaneously is smart enough to take advantage of the chaos that's happening, but is also so bumbling that all of this stuff is happening around him that it's all kind of just working in his advantage. And it's like, I'm like, which is it? Because it can't be both. It literally can't be both. And then you have the mercenaries that come in and everything that happens there. And the movie just becomes, like you were saying, Dustin, a straight up like wannabe Coen Brothers action movie where it's simultaneously ridiculous and comedic, where Joaquin Phoenix is like dying because he's fucking having an asthma anxiety attack throughout it, being chased by these mercenaries, yet somehow he's able to get the drop on one of these mercenaries. It's like the whole second half of the movie has just way too many contrivances to really make any sort of semblance of sense. And that's even before you get to the ending, where the Rittenhouse kid saves him, kills the one mercenary, but this is after he's already taken a knife to the head. And you're like, okay, well, the movie has to be over. And then it keeps going. And then you have the stupidity at the end where I'm just like, I don't even know what the point of that is. I'm like, okay, you could have just
humiliated.
Okay, I'm like, okay, showing out. It just shows the character got what he wanted, but it just shows the town is completely destroyed, and the mother is the one running the show now. She's speaking for his voice. She's the one who's going all in these lives and, you know, making all these speeches. But, you know, all that's all right. The craziest part to me was that the nurse ends up going into the bed with Joaquin and the mother.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
To humiliate him.
Like,
how do we get he likes humiliating his characters any way he can. So is this. And I gotta like all pathetic. Yeah, he got what he wanted, but he doesn't do anything.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything.
And that's another thing too. Also, is it's like if you're trying to get to the whole, oh, he got what he wanted, but not in the way he thought he did. I'm like, that would. If you're trying to make that argument, that doesn't even make sense, because in no universe would anyone want this. You know, but the whole reason why he even wanted to run for mayor in the first place was because of everything that had happened between Pedro Pascal and his wife. That was the whole reason why he even did it in the first place. And that's the other thing too, right?
Nothing happened.
Yeah, nothing happened there.
Repeatedly,
absolutely nothing happened
because
there.
she doesn't like being touched unless it's by a model-looking guy. You know what I mean? Nothing makes sense about this movie the more you think about it. Oh, yeah, he's a puppet now. He didn't want to move or speak. All right, then why is the mother-in-law speaking for him at the end, even though the rest of the movie she's saying nothing but nonsense?
Exactly, and that's the other thing too. Why is the mother-in-law? Is the movie trying to purport that she's all of a sudden the master, the new real mastermind that took all of this over? Like, why is she the spokesperson now for the tech
like,
corporation?
My perspective of it, from what I'm understanding, she's the one who was glued to the Facebook and seeing all the crazy stuff on the news that we have. The right people not seeing the right stuff, what to believe. I guess that's what she was like.
She's the one who shows her daughter Vernon Peak to begin with.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that's what. Yeah. Do you think we could have had the mother even cut from the film, and it just at least like had even Emma Stone and just her?
So I'm glad that you brought that up, because my take on it is that even though I don't think the character was that well fleshed out, and at the end of the day, for the first hour, that the mother character was just a one-off joke, I understood the purpose of it for the first half, as far as, again, being the conspiracy theory riddled older person with nothing better to do, who everybody is kind of just forced to put up with. It's once the second half comes in, and it's once again another case of the movie trying to have its cake and eat it too, where it's like, oh, so she goes from being this rambling lunatic with absolutely nothing of substance to say to all of a sudden being the clear mastermind and the new stand-in for the tech corporation. That's where it loses me. Like, so while I understood the purpose of the character, ultimately the direction that he chooses to take with her is really where it drops off a cliff to me, quite literally.
You could say it literally jumps off a cliff because of the poster. We have the buffalo dropping off the cliff.
Which isn't even from the movie. It's not a
right. Which, what was the purpose of that?
I think it's like an old photograph.
Yeah, I think it is. And I was like so captivated by it. I was like, why is this creature falling off the cliff? I was like,
has nothing to do with the movie.
No, nothing to do with the movie. It just you'd say it's just set in the town.
Oh, it just looks cool.
And then
okay, all right.
Yeah. And then also, Dustin, going off your point about the cops as well. Again, another thing.
Why are there only 2 cops in this? Like,
okay, yeah, that's the first problem.
That's how small this
the
town
problem.
is. Where I'm like, why is there even protests here? There's 2 fucking cops.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Also, where do all the people for the protest come from? Are we supposed to believe that those are all like town citizens? Like, where have all these people been for like
town on Earth? There's only 20 people that live there. That's what it is.
That's what I mean. But then why are there even protests? And who are they protesting to when everyone's home? I don't even.
Yes, exactly.
So stupid.
Exactly. It makes no sense. And if anything, I'll say I kind of understood where the movie was going with that, because I remember, Dustin, I don't know if you remember, but even during when the Black Lives Matter movement started, I remember there were people walking up and down Hopewell Junction in our town with the protesting signs. But even that one made more sense, because it's like, okay, we live relatively close to the city. There's more than like 20 people in our town, in our county.
In an actual city.
Right,
I mean, it's
exactly.
Not New York City, but
these people
it's not Eddington.
Right, these people are literally like in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. Like, it's actually insane. Like, where it's like. And so, yes, and again, it would be one thing, again, if the movie was just straight satire. But again, it's a case of the movie is trying to have its cake and eat it too. It's the fact that it's trying to say, oh, this is satirical, but also this is satirical, but also this is real. It's like, no, you can't have it both ways. Maybe in real life, sure, because real life emulates parody to the point that's where we get satire from, but not in the work of a movie. It's the same thing as, to me, when you have a James Bond movie doing things that we had seen in an Austin Powers movie, which was making fun of the original James Bond movies, but now this new one is trying to take it seriously. That's kind of what I feel like this movie is trying to do at the end of the day. Oh, man. Also, this guy who keeps commenting is really throwing me off, because...
I'll just say...
Yeah, well, dude, what are you saying?
Ari Aster? Otherwise, shut up.
It might be.
I'll just say to this person, I also agree. Ari Aster is creatively very good. I see he's a genius. You clearly like the film, and that's okay. All 3 of us here did not really associate with it, so that's okay. Not everyone agrees with it.
See, and that's the thing too. I wouldn't even go so far as this. That's the thing. I wouldn't even go so far as to say that I didn't like it. I did like it, but I have problems with it. I have a lot of problems with it. It's a problematic movie, but it's another one of those instances where the movie is trying so hard, but it's one of those things where it's like you're trying to throw a dart at a dartboard, and every time you're just missing. But it's one of those things where it's like you're missing not enough to miss where it's like so annoying, but it's getting so close to hitting a dead center that just by getting it a little off, it's annoying. That's kind of like where I'm conflicted with it.
And there's no doubt. This is a great thing I'm going to say about Eddington. This is really starting a conversation that what happened during the pandemic. And that's what I really also liked about this movie, because
we were all controlled by AI, apparently. We were all controlled by AI. That's what happened in the pandemic, right?
Right.
So I think it's a lot is being addressed in Eddington, and it looks back at a time where, was not too long ago. I think it's one of the better pandemic movies, but I think I wish it was played out a little bit better in terms of, tightness and story-wise and all these characters, just everything we all talked about. And I think it would have been better, but I enjoyed it mostly for what it was, but it's not a perfect film. I think there's other films that I've seen so far.
To say the least.
It's like there's other films that I think I've seen this year that are definitely stronger. But is it Ari Aster's best? No. But I think we can all agree at the end of the day that Ari Aster is an artist, and he pushes boundaries and makes interesting points. So do with that as you will.
I think if you're like a deep-seated conspiracy theorist and buy into all of like the absolute and I'm not talking like the stuff that was later proven to be true. I'm talking about like all of like the behind-the-scenes shadow thing. Oh, drinking baby's blood, all that crazy shit. If you're like that level of a conspiracy theorist, this movie's probably gonna feel like one of the greatest movies you've ever seen. I think
someone in they were doing advertisements or something like that when I was seeing on my Instagram. It said like the perfect conspiracy thriller, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a conspiracy thriller? Like, that's what I saw. I was not expecting to see that, because I don't think we also got to mention this movie premiered at Cannes, and it got some mixed reviews there.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. It did get very mixed reviews.
Oh, okay, this is like, I guess this is going to be the movie that's also going to be talked about for the summer, knowing how mixed it is, from after, coming out at Cannes, and, because we usually, I think us as a group, we get excited after a film has premiered at Cannes. We're like, oh my God, it's going to be the movie of this, the year.
Yeah.
It's not the movie of the year, unfortunately.
No, not even close. Not even close. I mean, listen, I give it a lot of credit for trying as hard as it does. That is what I give it credit for. It is really, really, really trying. And what I also like is it shows Ari trying to move past a lot of the things that he got out of the way in his last three movies. It's one of those instances where it's trying to throw too much into it. It's trying to have its cake and eat it too. It's trying to, it's trying to ultimately, and by virtue of the fact that of all of that, I think it's falling into a category where people are just blatantly misinterpreting it, just completely blatantly misinterpreting it and thinking that it is this kind of grand say-all on what happened during COVID, when in reality, it's just a movie that is ultimately trying to make fun of everything that happened during COVID. But then all of a sudden, but then it kind of even loses its sense of that. I don't know. Like Dustin, help me out here, because I'm losing my train of thought even as I'm trying to explain it.
What Don't Look Up did better than this movie was actually poke fun at everybody, and this movie really doesn't, in my opinion. I mean, you could say like, oh well, it does like kind of like call out the hypocrisy of like, the girl character and how she just protests just for attention and clout. All right, she's barely a character in the movie. You could have like actually explained why someone would do that. You know what I mean? But no, she's used as like a MacGuffin or whatever for like the Brian and the Ryan subplot, whatever the Pedro Pascal's kid's name was. But yeah, it's a movie masquerading as like a movie like Don't Look Up that will actually like skewer everybody. But really at the end of the day, and why people on Twitter are liking it more than Don't Look Up, is because it's making fun of Republicans by the end of the day. And I'm not a Republican or a conservative. It's just getting really fucking tiring that like most comedies, satirical or not, it's always cool to just make fun of the Republicans now, because it's just lazy.
Yeah, almost like it's made by Hollywood, who are predominantly, liberals.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm
not Republican either, but I think we're all getting kind of sick of that. The same thing that's being like, this is the wrong side, of society. Like I'm like, okay, I get it.
He is trying to like call out like certain hypocrisies, but then again, Pedro Pascal does weird, shady things in the beginning of this movie where, like, his assistant guy that comes by at the end and is now Joaquin Phoenix's assistant, that guy may be the shadiest person in the movie.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt, because that's the ambassador for the tech company.
And I'm just like, okay, Pedro Pascal, like, they're obviously showing, like, okay, he's not like a good guy really, and like what happened to his wife also, that's also never explained.
Yeah,
didn't even touch that.
They just said she just like left.
She just left.
Like, there's
they just said she left, and they never get into it. They never get into it.
Imagine if like the wife came back into the center of this film. I hear her running again, and watch it like be played by like I don't know, like Margaret Qualley, you know, or something crazy. It's just like they didn't show it in the advertising. She's like, I'm here to do this and this, expose him, and she works with Joaquin or something. Like, imagine how crazy that would have been, and if it just focused on
if the movie had actually picked a thing and stuck with it. But it starts with the damn election, then it goes to the assassinations, then it goes to the framing, then it goes to the Antifa mercenaries coming in, then it goes to it's just all over the place. It's so all over the place. It's just got too much they're trying to go for. And Dustin, I love that point that you brought up of where you're exactly right, because again, you look at the way that people reacted to Don't Look Up versus the way that people are reacting to this, and it all makes perfect sense, because Don't Look Up is one that is trying to skewer everybody and not trying to deliberately take a side. This is a movie that blatantly, and if anything, again, kind of reflects the weird, rabid, crazy Twitter politics where people are so against, like, oh, all these bad things happening, but then they're fine when it happens to somebody who it effectively should happen to, you know?
Yeah.
If anything, again, this in a weird way, this is a far stretch example, but I think you know where I'm going with this, where you see Amber Heard, who, again, was proven to have done all the shit that happened to Johnny Depp. Amber Heard is now still getting fucking model photo shoots now. Meanwhile, Johnny Depp is still struggling to get any sort of recognition.
This movie,
right?
This movie would have actually been skewering both sides. Brett Badger, if that's even your real name, it's not. It's probably
Definitely
something
not. That's
terrible.
not a real name. That's not a real name.
If it was actually doing that, it would have actually been on Joaquin's side about the masks. Because everyone hates the mask.
I agree. Everybody, I don't care what side you were on. Everybody universally, even if you were like trying to get into it in the beginning, after a while, even once all the stats came out that proved that masks were fucking useless and did absolutely nothing to stop the spread of rate of diseases, like 100%, like both sides were just
movie
sick
is
of the
still
masks.
on the side of the masks, and like, oh no, those actually helped. No, they didn't. They didn't help.
Okay, yeah,
and that's what, like,
not even a little bit.
That's the thing. Every joke you could say, oh, it's skewered a little bit of the left, a little bit, a very tiny little sliver. The more I think about it, the more Pedro Pascal's gone. But what about that last hour though? That's all conservative stuff. The whole Rittenhouse character, I hated that performance and that character. And
me too.
The character itself is
that was the worst part. And I was like, did we need to show this or remember this guy? No, we don't. We didn't need to like see this film where it says like, oh, remember this guy. But I am curious to know what this Kyle guy thinks.
Oh, but guys, it doesn't matter because by us pointing out the hypocrisy of this movie, this guy's naturally going to be like, "Oh, you guys are just all Republican assholes." So yeah, watch. That's exactly what. Watch. This guy was literally about to type that comment right as I said that.
About the scene where the kid's like explaining the girl's rhetoric to his father and his mother, and the father's like, the fuck are you talking about? You're white.
No. That wasn't the line.
I know.
That wasn't the line. The greatest line in the movie when he's like, no, the pause after the idiot is saying this is like, no, are you fucking retarded? I lost it. I'm like, thank you. Because that was the sum up of every single person who was so frustrated with all these stupidity that happened during it.
Scene in the entire film.
The funniest scene in the whole movie.
It's funny.
Funniest scene.
It's funny because it's finally making fun of that side, but just for that second. And then that we go back to the girl for that one scene. She's like, "Oh, I didn't mean literal arms." Okay, like we get that moment too. So so we get 2 or 3 moments of ripping into liberals, and the rest of it is just like free for all on Republicans, and anything they believe in, you could laugh it off. They're all going to join a cult anyway. You know what I mean? That's what it like. That's what the Emma Stone
the Fox News review. What they see later, we'll just see Tucker Carlson or like something Marjorie Taylor Greene ripping up.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's Tucker Carlson's independent now, so there's that.
We'll find out what Elon thinks later on if he sees it. you know.
Yeah,
I think this is one part.
performing the politics of the BLM to get to get with girls. Okay, that would be left. That would be a left satirization if they didn't turn him right at the end.
There you go. There you go. I'm like, the dude is clearly supposed to be a parody, a riff on Kyle Rittenhouse. That's not even a little bit subtle.
You can't pretend that the kid was trying to be liberal, but in the end, he ended up being a Republican. That's what the movie's saying. Right. Okay. It's that, like, but those people exist, though, that you're saying are like, oh, well, these BLM guys, they pretend to be in to get, with girls or whatever. Yeah, they do. But but the movie doesn't even fucking try that. Like with the son, but the son's already the mayor's kid. So how hard did he even need to try? He was a better looking guy than the white kid anyway. So the girl went with him.
Right.
And again, the whole framing thing with the cop, it's like, I'll send a text message to the cop and then I'll pretend to cry in front of Joaquin Phoenix and then I'll frame the black guy and they'll arrest him even though he's a cop. It's just so convoluted. You watch the movie again and you
that is
idiot.
No, just that plot point. Like that is still just one of the most absolutely insane plot points I've ever seen.
There's not that much liberal skewering comparison to the Republican skewering.
Not even close. Not even close.
I bet you hate Don't Look Up because it's equal amounts of like shit being thrown.
I mean, I wasn't a fan of Don't Look Up, but I see where you're going with the Dustin. So I mean, I wasn't a fan. I thought it was one of the weaker films.
I like Don't Look Up a lot. I like a lot.
Do like it though, but I remember, but that's okay.
Oh man.
Like ultimately, I feel like if I'm sorry to cut you off, Dom. This was a great conversation. I'm just really happy the way this turned out.
I love it. This is exactly what I was hoping would come from it. Because if anything, again, it's summing up like all my points where it's like, because this was another case with this movie where I'm like, did I actually like think like are these things actually like true, or is it just a thing of where it's like I'm just like misinterpreting this? And it's very validating here that I'm like, no, I wasn't misinterpreting. Like there was a lot of like convolution and this movie trying to have its cake and eat it too, which I think is a perfect way to kind of bring us into the wrap up of this movie, which is that this is a having your cake and trying to eat it too movie. It's a movie that is ultimately posturing more than it is actually saying anything. And that's kind of why at the end of the day, this movie was never going to be as good as it was, because Ari has now shown with this movie that he is ultimately incapable of moving past himself. He is incapable, at least as a script writer. I can't say as a filmmaker technician. It's why I want to see him direct somebody else's script next, but he is incapable of, when it comes to movies that he is making, of moving past his own isms, whatever that is. And he is incapable of not letting that infect his work to a degree to where it just causes things to just straight up not make sense. And I think this is the most perfect example.
I want to say going forward, I want to see with Ari Aster, besides you mentioning to write direct a script that's not his, I think he needs to step away from A24, maybe work with Neon, maybe work with Warner, maybe work with Focus, maybe work with,
I don't know if that's the problem.
I don't know if that's also the issue too, because they're giving him money, to make this
right. That's what I was going to get at too, is that I don't know if there's going to be any
boat is afraid completely bombed, so then they took a chance on it again, and I
thought it did. It didn't do well at the box office.
I thought it made some back.
I don't think so.
It didn't do, from what it didn't do well. So, but
no, that was a big bomb. $12.3 million box office on a $50 million budget. That was a bomb. That is a big bomb.
I think Eddington was
all right.
25 million. So I think they need to cut down again. Maybe Ari needs to go back to the horror side again and go back to like a Hereditary. Sure. I think
he's not that funny. His comedies aren't funny to me.
He's not funny. Also, the other thing too, also that I was going to say is that the other problem as far as why he won't go with anybody else is because no other place is going to give him not only just a kind of this kind of a budget, but unlimited freedom the way that A24 has. That's the other problem.
You bring up a good point. Maybe Neon, because I think now, like you could say, Mike Flanagan has that, I think, some kind of deal with them, and he's allowing them, because I saw that recently Chris Duckman got more money to reshoot some of his movie that's going to come out later.
Well, but how involved was he with those reshoots? Is what I
did Mike Flanagan fucking ghost direct the reshoots? Oh, Shelby Oaks is going to be bad, man. Come on, let's not pretend it's going to be good.
Listen.
You ever watch Julia, Kristen? You ever watch Julia?
Julia, which one was that?
It's the Drive ripoff one that he probably scrubbed from offline.
Oh no.
Give that a watch. You can find that somewhere.
Julia,
Look up Julia. Yeah. Tell me that's not the funniest thing you've ever seen.
Try, because I remember, because I was I'm a Chris Stuckman fan from back in the day. I didn't see this. So is this like a ripoff of it?
Yeah.
It really is?
Yep.
Oh man.
No one
Oh,
likes
man.
it, Kristen.
Oh gosh. I like his takes on his takes on film criticism. I have to see his
Kind of like the movie that we just reviewed. This conversation is going in all
He
sorts of
doesn't
different
even-
directions that I did not see
He doesn't
coming.
even do film criticism anymore. He just talks
Yeah,
about movies he likes.
Yes. Because in his mind, he's like, oh, film criticism like destroys.
No, he
like,
calls
the
it shitting
whole
on
purpose of making-
movies. Verbatim.
again,
Yeah, I
which
don't
it's like-
want to crap on movies.
That's not what criticism is.
Film criticism is also a art, and it's also opinion. So that's the way I see it. From
But he doesn't want to lose jobs or
No.
job opportunities, so he doesn't want to put his
Yes.
His true
negative
opinion.
opinions.
I guess you could
Yeah,
say that
exactly.
his last true opinion then was Madam Web, but then
Not even. No, that.
Oh man. This
Sorry,
conversation is going off
I
a
don't
cliff.
know
Let's
how
just get
this
this
is
wrapped. Kind of like the
Yeah.
polls on the poster of this movie. That also has nothing to do with this movie. I love it.
I don't know.
It's
I'll
great.
give it a 5.
Oh, man.
I'll talk about it. I'll give it a 5.5 out of 10. Strong 5.5. I love the technical qualities of this film. I love Daniel Pemberton and Bobby Krilick's score. I love that they collaborated for this. It added a lot of intensity and tension, and just it made it more cinematic to me. If that sounds like an amateurish critique, sorry, but it just did, and it made the movie better, in my opinion. And yeah, I like the look of the movie. I wish it felt a little bit more grand. It would have made more sense to set this sort of a story in a city rather than like a rural town like this. Because then again, there's 2 cops. I can't, and they're having protests. I can't get over that. But like, you know what I mean? It's just like it's just too. But they couldn't set it in a city. Otherwise, you couldn't make it a Western. You know what I mean? They couldn't have made it a Western.
Right.
And that's really his whole gimmick. He wanted to make a dark, comedic, satirical Western about COVID. It's like, okay, where you rip Republicans the whole time and you pretend to rip both. Okay. Great.
Oh man, Kristen, your final thoughts and star rating for Eddington.
Let's see. I'm gonna give this film, since I do like grading wise, I'm gonna give it a C. I don't know, man. This was I'm gonna say this was a good conversation piece, which I liked. Dustin, I'm piggyback. Yeah, there you go. Going off of you saying that, like, I agree. Score sounds great. Movie looks great, but I think if we had a tighter film, like we just all discussed, and we didn't have all this stuff being thrown at the wall, I think we would have enjoyed it more. Performances are very good, but I can't fully recommend it. I think there's some better stuff out there, but it is, I think, one of the better films that does explore COVID.
Yeah, I agree generally with both of you guys, because I'm right down the middle of this movie right now. Right now I am kind of in a little bit of a torn position, because I initially gave this movie 4 stars just for its attempts, right? And I'm lowering that to a 3.5, 4 now. I do need to watch this movie again, just to see, in terms of, like I said, just in order to, make sense of some more of the things that we've discussed. Where I enjoy this movie is, again, the technicals and the fact that it really is the first movie that really genuinely tries to make an attempt at something. Where this movie fails is ultimately in it's trying to have its cake and eating it too. The fact that Ari cannot get past his own sensibilities, and the fact that ultimately the movie is much more so posturing than it is at actually saying anything. It's trying to do that fine line of being like, oh, we're satire when we want to be, but then we're like real world commentary and like statements when we want to be. And I'm not a fan of that. That's what really, really kind of frustrates me. I wouldn't even say that it's edgelordy, because even edgelordism is done with some sense of conviction, even if it's coming from a place where the people clearly have no idea what they're fucking talking about. It's the fact that it is more what's it called? It's the fact that it is more I had the word for this and I literally just forgot it. It's not edgelordy. It's the fact that it is more so fuck, I can't think of the word that I just had.
Just one more thing.
Yeah,
it seems to be my main objective is to shit on films. dude, this is one review, okay? This is one review of a movie that you want. You know what I mean? There's so many other things I've talked about on this channel with Dominic and everything. Like, and it doesn't help that we're doing it in the worst decade I've ever been alive for film. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, you didn't hear me rant and rave and love Honora a few months ago.
Dustin, this is clearly a guy again from special commentary from one of the worst commentators ever. This is clearly a guy who was just tuned into this one video because he's just seen this one movie and thinks that it's the greatest movie ever made.
It's okay. We got your opinion. This guy clearly enjoyed the film. You didn't, and that's okay. That's
fine. But that's what I mean. Like, people on Twitter are so obnoxious if you disagree with them, and they act like they're literally and intellectually above you if they like a movie that you don't. Yes. And that's what this guy is. And Ari Aster fans in general are just kind of come across, to be honest with you. That's why I was kind of apprehensive to be on this episode.
Yeah. All right, yeah, so that's kind of our final thoughts on it.
What irony that you're an asshole watching a bunch of random YouTubers at 12:35. Like, who cares what you know what I mean? We're just having fun. We love movies. We didn't love this particular one, but I loved Hereditary. You know what I mean?
To be fair, we all like Trap. Remember that?
Yes, that is true. Trap, incredible movie. Incredible movie.
When you said about The Happening not being intentionally like corny or whatever, but then he set such a great tone and feel for Trap that those moments do work and they are genuinely funny. So if a guy can learn from his mistakes like M. Night did, you know, from Happening all the way to Trap, then I think, can Ari Aster do the same sort of thing? No, because he doesn't think his shit doesn't stink. So,
yeah, and that's ultimately the problem. Like I said, it's going to be very interesting to see what Ari Aster's next movie is going to be. So, with all of that being said, guys, oh man, that is our review of Eddington. Dustin, where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
I did not start off shitting on his name. I first responded to one of your comments. Then I was like, okay, Brett Badger.
Oh my God, Dustin, enough. This guy's not going to stop. Plug yourself. Let's get done with this, please.
In the good words of Taylor Swift, just shake it off.
Yeah.
Where can the good people find you, Dustin?
That was a great reference for me. Mr. G Movie Reviews on YouTube. Dustin Mason on Letterboxd. Thank you.
All right. Kristen, where can the good people follow you on the
interwebs? All the good people can find me on Instagram, everywhere. I'm all over social media. You can follow me all over. And I co-host a podcast with my best friend, Max. Shout out to Mac. We're going to be talking so many movies coming up soon, and we have a lot of stuff fun that is planned for the show. Dom, we are going to have you on soon to talk about Fantastic Four. And yeah, we lots of good stuff planned, and I got to cover the Tribeca Film Festival most recently, talking to some great filmmakers. And yeah, just thank you for having me. It was fun talking about Ari Aster. I feel like this is the same way how we felt about like we discuss Alex Garland, you know, when we chat about him, you know, so I enjoy our conversations like this, like, you know, discussing his films and Ari's films. So hopefully next time we can talk about another Ari Aster.
I like filmmakers that take big swings, even if they don't always work, even if their choices don't always work. I like filmmakers.
What about One Battle After Another, Kristen? You looking forward to that?
I don't know.
Ooh.
Oh man, that's gonna be another one. That's gonna be the next big conversation piece that the three of us are gonna have. I can already tell. That's another movie.
What about Weapons?
Oh, I am excited for Weapons. I'm actually really excited for that.
Listen, the minute that I found out that Jordan Peele fired his agent after he couldn't get the script, I'm like, okay.
Good. Like, I even want to see the football movie. What's the called?
Him. Yes. Yeah, fingers crossed that's going to be the Midnight Madness showing a tip this year.
Fun. Loved it. I have
cryptos. I liked it too.
Oh, here, I should show off my new crypto really quick.
Yeah, I don't hate everything, Brett. I like Superman.
This is my new crypto squishmallow. So if you want to know how I really feel about Superman, I love Superman.
Oh, that's nice.
That's adorable. Yeah, Superman, genuinely one of the best movies of the year. You guys can follow me with everything going on at Movie Nerd Reviews across all platforms, at Official Talkin TV Podcast across all platforms. If you have any other thoughts or criticisms or anything that you want to send to us about our opinions on Eddington, Brett Badger, send them our way. Follow me on Instagram that way as far as that goes. And I can continue to tell you how you're wrong because you are. And with that being said, people, 12 seasons in a short film and watch more fucking movies. Definitely you, Brett Badger, because you clearly need you because you've only seen one movie in your entire life. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.